Welcome. Welcome to Earth Month, Earth Week, Earth Day, whatever you want to call it, as long as it's Earth. Lauren has a comment. Good. Yeah, we are so happy to have all of you here, and it's important to recognize those people that have put this together from the 5 different churches. You'll be seeing them in the bulletin and doing their part. So, but what we have done as a tradition is to hold up this banner and take a group photo. So everybody, please come up, and we'll have a group photo. What I like about a group photo is you realize you are not alone, actually, and that's the message, that we have people here that are advocating for climate justice and social justice, and that's what's important. I do want to give a special thank you to Irene for being here from Iowa Interfaith Power and Light. Thank you, Irene. And her husband is here, Nate. Thank you for being here too as well. We have Josh Patty here. Reverend Josh Patty is, and Josh is the minister for the region of the Upper Midwest region from over 100 Disciples churches here. We have other people, friends from other places, so thank you. I'll introduce Lauren to start our worship here. Then we're going to have a prelude, and that's wonderful. Bill, thank you for being here.
It is wonderful to have all of you gathered together this day in our common ministry within the work of Green Chalice. each of us part of unique conversations and congregations seeking to do what we believe God is calling us to do, to create a world that is both mindful, faithful, and constant in its stewardship for all that is good for the creation of this planet, its survival, and our own survival. So welcome. I'm glad that you are here. I want to take a quick moment to also welcome fellow clergy who are among us. Reverend Heather Walkendorf, welcome. Yes, yes. Reverend Travis Stanley, welcome. Reverend Candace Brown, welcome. Reverend Doug Pfeiffer, welcome. All that being said, let us begin to worship.
To honor our Indigenous siblings, we begin our time today with a land acknowledgement. And first I want to emphasize that we offer this acknowledgement as a beginning and not an end. It is the first step of reconciliation and restitution for the people displaced by colonization. So with our words, we honor and we invite the truth into this space. Taking a cue from our Indigenous siblings and their protocols, we begin with a time of reverence and a time of respect. If you're comfortable doing so, I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. I invite you to, in your mind, see open skies above you, to see in every direction around you the rolling hills of this beautiful land we call home, to listen for the sound of the bird, the call of the eagle, the chirp of the bluebird. Listen to the flowing water, to the feel of the wind upon your skin, the patter of rain, and then to sense your deep connection with all of it. With this connection, we recognize the original, traditional, indigenous lands that encompass the places we live. With this connection, we recall the indigenous people who walked this part of the earth before Europeans stole it away from them. The reason that we connect, recognize, and recall is important. It offers respect to the indigenous people who are still very present. It counters the doctrine of discovery with the true story of the people who were already here and creates a broader awareness of the history that led to this moment. By supporting larger truth-telling and reconciliation efforts, we will hopefully begin to repair relationships with Native communities and with the land itself. We collectively recognize that wherever we are, our indigenous ancestors were here first, with sustainable government and land practices and languages that were intertwined with the land itself. They never claimed to own the land, but instead saw themselves as part of it. And so today we acknowledge that our gathering takes place in the state of Iowa on traditional land of Native people. Some of these people were given names by their Europeans they encountered, and others claimed their own names. These include the Iowa, Jiwere, Osage, Sauk, Fox, Yankton, Wapatan, and other ancient people whose names and tradition have been lost due to conquest, assimilation, and time. And so we stand with our indigenous siblings and demand the policies and practices that harm them come to an end. We stand with our indigenous siblings and honor this land and our holy connection to it. we acknowledge our place in the great river of humanity and drench ourselves in the knowledge of those who have stood here before us. May God hear our words, and may they be so.
Please join me in our call to worship. To bring new life to the land, to restore the waters, to refresh the air, we join with the earth and with each other. To renew the forest, to care for the plants, to protect the creatures, we join with the earth and with each other. To celebrate the seas, to rejoice in the sunlight, to sing the song of the stars, we join with the earth and with each other. To recall our destiny, to renew our spirits, to reinvigorate our bodies, we join with the earth and with each other. To recreate the human community, to promote justice and peace, to remember our children, we join with the earth and with each other. We join together as many and diverse expressions of one loving mystery for the healing of the earth and the renewal of all life. Amen. And let us join together in hymn number 696 in the red chalice hymnals, For Beauty of Meadows.
Let us pray in the tradition of the native people. O Great Spirit, whose voice we hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear us. We are small and weak. We need your strength and wisdom. Let us walk in beauty and make our eyes behold the red and purple sunset. Make our hands respect the things you have made. Make our ears sharp to hear your voice. Make us wise so that we may understand the things you have taught your people. Let us learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. We seek strength, not to be greater than another, but to fight our greatest enemy, ourselves. Make us always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so when life fades, as the fading sunset, our spirits may come to you without shame. Amen.
Hear the words of Psalm 8. O eternal one, our sovereign, how majestic is your name throughout the earth. You who have covered the heavens with your splendor, from the mouths of infants and sucklings, you have founded strength on account of your foes to put an end to enemy and avenger. When I behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are human beings that you have been mindful of them? Mortals, that you have taken note of them, that you have made them little less than divine and adorned them with glory and majesty. You have made them master over your handiwork, laying the world at their feet, sheep and oxen, all of them, and wild beasts too, the birds of the heavens, the fish of the sea, whatever travels the paths of the seas. O eternal one, our sovereign, how majestic is your name throughout the earth. It is now with great joy we introduce to you our keynote speaker, Irene Damaris, the Executive Director of Iowa Interfaith Power and Light.
Good afternoon, everyone. Forgot call and response. I haven't been up in a pulpit for a while. Anyways, I am thrilled. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. We're so committed year after year to care of God's creation and seeking environmental justice. You all are just such wonderful, beautiful people, and I'm thrilled to be with you and 5 churches. How wonderful is that? On Earth Day, even every day, we must talk about the climate impact on Iowans and our local communities. So I'm so honored to be with you today. Anyways, I'm Irene Damaris, and I have the honor of being the Executive Director of Iowa Interfaith Power and Light. Our mission is to empower Iowans of faith and conscience to take bold and just action on the climate crisis. As a statewide organization, we represent thousands of Iowa clergy, laity, and their allies working together to build a sustainable and healthy Iowa future. And I see a lot of our wonderful supporters in this room today. One of the reasons that I felt called to work at Iowa IPL, because it's a vocation, this isn't a job for me, was how we live into our mission. We invite people like you into the work of climate justice. We meet people where they're at because we know that you are exactly who's needed to make a difference and act on climate. I often find myself living in this tension of embracing and yet challenging our common ground, to invite people into the work of the climate movement and to create space for them, those who are not quite ready, to join us later, because we need everybody at our table. Iowa IPL has this program, our initiative, Faith Farms and Climate. We go into rural communities and we talk with farmers, ranchers, and landowners about how their faith calls them into climate action. The ground rules for this conversation is that we are rooted in the love of our neighbor. It's not a debate, and climate is changing, but we may disagree how. I don't know any other environmental group in this state that gets climate deniers at our events because they feel safe because it's a faith conversation. So we get people who don't believe in this, but yet they come because it's faith-centered. So in 2022, we worked in Washington County. That's in southeast Iowa. So Washington County has this very proud history of adopting to what we now are calling climate-smart agriculture practices. So no tilling the fields, cover crops, stuff like that. They and they've been doing that since the 1960s, before it was hip and cool. So these are really, really good practices because they ensue soil health, which is vital to crops, and how water filters through our soil, and that impacts our rivers, our streams. These are really important things, and they do great work. They're very proud. They have the highest per acre of cover crops in all of our 99 counties, and I believe they are in the top end of our nation as well. So again, putting in this work for decades. They have higher yields, so family farms are putting less money into inputs like nitrates. They are saving their soil. Some aren't paying for crop insurance. Again, amazing things that we here today would say climate action for the climate crisis. And yet, that's not exactly my experience. So in August, that same year, we had a public event in the Diocese of Davenport. Then Bishop Zinkala, he's now the Archbishop of the state, was slated to attend, but as things go, Bishop was called away and he couldn't make it. We had been traveling for other work, so overnight before the event, we were, I believe, in Cedar Falls. We noticed this weird thing. Our event registration doubled. But we were hopeful, so my staff and I arrived at the Catholic Church in Washington County, and 30 minutes before the event, people started rolling in. 60 people came. We were expecting 20. And they had an agenda. First, there was frustration with the bishop not being there. Second, we had to put out more tables because 20 turned to 60. And third, somebody started passing out papers of why the climate crisis wasn't real. Eventually, we had this room full of frustrated farmers that had no problem telling me that climate change was not a fact and that I was led astray. A room full of farmers who were doing climate-smart agriculture practices that had a very deep faith, but yet they just couldn't believe in climate change. They thought I was going to tell them how to farm. I am not a farmer. I'm a farming enthusiast and a proud friend of the family farmer of the Iowa Farmers Union. They thought I was going to tell them to eat less meat. And context on that, Pope Francis had recently told Catholics to eat less meat. And so there were a ton of pork producers in this room, and they were really offended that their Pope, faith leader, was attacking their livelihood. They wanted a fight. They wanted a debate. And in reality, we wanted to have a conversation and invite them in. I don't know if we got through to anyone that day, if anybody was on the fence on climate change. But we listened to them and saw them as humans, and we learned a lot. They wanted to challenge our common ground. I wanted to embrace it. The reality is climate is changing, and we need to act now. Later is too late. That is a phrase we all need to start saying. Later is too late. It's a climate crisis. I changed our tagline a couple of years ago without board approval. Don't tell my board. From climate change to climate crisis, because that's what it is. Some days it's hard to find the hope and the abundance that our faith calls us into. We've been called stewards of the earth, and instead we chose dominion, which has resulted in creation not being cared for. Our current reality is that our political polarization has impacted climate justice and allowed people to think that the science behind climate change is not real. It is. Instead of being the justice issue that everyone in every single world religion cares about, we're pushing away from our common ground and moving further away from what our sacred scriptures are calling us to live into. Our common ground is at risk. Decades of touted good farming practices have eroded our soil. They've poisoned our water with nitrates, sent carbon into our air, and one has to think about how our ag practices are impacting for that the second year in the row. Iowa is number 2 in the nation for cancer rates. Loving our neighbor should mean implementing climate-smart agricultural practices into state law, not passing religious freedom laws that let Christians discriminate against God's beloved. Yep, I don't get to say that often. I'm excited I can say that here today. The right to clean water is what Jesus would do, WWJD, not discriminate, and I'm so tired. I'm frustrated and tired because this past legislative session and every single one since I have been on staff at Iowa IPL in 2020, anything that was deemed friendly to environmentalists was left on the floor of committees. We are continually asked not to lobby on things so Republicans vote on our stuff. That is friendly for environment. It's not working. While the legislators and leadership prioritize legislation that harms creation, all creation includes human beings. And yet we share this common ground. Giving up is not an option because to love your neighbor is to take bold and just action on the climate crisis. Even though those we hope will lead, we hope that they take the commandment of loving your neighbor, and they're not, and that's really hard. We're challenging what they think of common land and common ground and what we're to do as Christians. So how do we find our common ground while embracing and challenging it in love? Because that's what we're called to do. Iowans of faith and conscience around the state are doing that in their unique contexts in so many different ways. And this is how I fill my cup on the days where I need an extra dose of hope. So what people are doing in clean energy investments is really, really exciting. So y'all are Green Chalice congregations. You've done the work. You've prioritized creation. The sign in which we all drove into, Earth Day is every day. Iowa IPL recently did a training on the IPL Cool Congregations program for energy efficiency, and we're seeing an increase of churches and faith communities wanting to do that work. Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Decorah I think they're at zero emissions. They put in heat pumps, they put in solar, and this was a pre-existing building. And that's exciting to me because that's a group of people who said, hey, let's make the changes, let's put the money into this and make a really big impact. At that same thing, we had Tom and Linda Small talk about Covenant here and all the work that has been done at this community. Countless churches are using the Inflation Reduction Act to install solar and heat pumps, and that means churches are having conversations about creation care, right? There has to be those investments. And I mean, I have a solar company that's been sending me different churches, and a Pentecostal church in a rural part of Iowa just put on solar, right? Like, that's incredible. There's a little cross cut out in it. It's pretty cute. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's solar. I mean, there's not as much art you can do with solar panels, but a cross you can cut out of it. Not cut out, but have the gap, you know. We're making changes to our faith communities that leave our church doors and make an impact in our communities because our hearts and minds are changed. I've met a lot of great farmers. I know I gave you like the worst story I have. And we get to talk to them about their love of creation through Faith Farms and Climate, and I'll just mention a few of them because we need hope here. Seth Watkins is a farmer out in Clarinda, southwest Iowa, and he has been taking climate action and changing his agriculture practices over the past 10 years. When they had their children, there were some genetic issues that were brought on by the water quality and what was in their well water. And so they radically changed their practices. They changed even when calving season was, and why do it in the winter? And doing grazing cattle and having a whole ecosystem of prairie coming back and seeing new life come back. Not even new life, old lives come back to their old spaces, right? And that's exciting to me, and he's made it his mission to tell people, and he goes and tells his story all over our state and in the Midwest. Denise and Larry O'Brien are in Atlantic. Denise founded Women, Food, and Agriculture Network. She is the one who stayed at home on the farm, and Larry supported her. And they did organics in the 70s when it was the weird thing to do and their neighbors didn't know what to do with them. And yet they have kept up and they have influenced so many farmers and taught so many farmers because they invited people into their practices. In the Waverly area, I think of Genuine Fox Farms, Rob and Tammy. They are completely pesticide-free, and every single year a new critter, animal, insect comes back to the farm. Every year. They've been doing it for over 20 years. It's really amazing that little tweaks bring back, who was there before. I think of Schaefer Ridgeway. He's in Waterloo, and it's Southern Goods and Grazing Cattle. And he participated in our Waverly session, and he's also been, if you follow our newsletter, last year we did a section called Faithful Farmer. I'm gonna share what he shared with us. When we lived on the farm, I would get to work at 5:30 a.m. That's when I feel God speaks to me most, not necessarily as an audible voice. I hear God through the morning birdsong and watching the sun rise upon the trees as I work. There's something spiritual about putting your hands in the dirt, putting seeds into the ground, and caring for them so they can reach their full potential. I know that's what God wants for us. He wants us to reach our full potential. And he is someone also that works for the USDA and is working with other farmers and just bringing that. So for every farmer that you see that is not putting cover crops in, there's a bunch that are working so hard and give me so much hope. I get hopeful through Iowa IPL's college student leadership program called to Climate Action, where we work with these students over a 10-week period over the summer as they integrate their faith and climate action. College is that age range is so formational. You're picking out who you hope to be and starting to talk about faith formation during that time, and also climate can really impact, and we've found that it impacts lives. I think of Clara Miller. Don't tell anyone, she's my favorite. She will be graduating soon in agronomy and animal science from Iowa State University. And as she thinks about climate, it has completely changed how she interacts with the questions in her program and pushes back, and also invites people to join her. She's so great, I brought her back and made up a fellowship one year, and now she serves on Iowa IPL's board, and I'm thrilled to say I get to be a job reference for her, and she's gonna make a difference in Iowa. She's really great. I think of Sam Sazin, who was at St. Ambrose, and she now works for World Relief as their volunteer coordinator, but she also, as she's working with this organization, knowing that climate is such a huge factor in the work that she does, and gets to bring that in, and that's been exciting to see her flourish. I think of Nazma Noure, who will be graduating soon from the University of Iowa. She was at Grinnell before, with a master's in public health. Public health and climate action are very, very intertwined, and I got to see her through the summer, see that, and see the clarity in that, and see where she's gonna go. She is a Muslim woman deep in faith, and she was really a rock star. If you signed this year's faith statement, she really was the driving force behind it. I think of Alexandria Lund, who attended a DORT, and she is in med school. And so starting to think about how our air impacts asthma and other health issues. And so she started thinking, oh, well, as a doctor, I can go in this direction. I got to fill out, I think, security for, the National Institute for Health for her one year. And then Jake Jansen, he now is one of the sustainability directors for the city of Dubuque. And he was in the first program. I never got to work with him, but whenever we ask for alumni to speak, he always shows up. And he has continued that work. And we are so blessed to work with these kind of students who really are making impact now. What also gives me hope is the awesome staff at Iowa Interfaith Power and Light. So Tim Gossett is in the back. He's been with us since January. He's our new associate director, and Ren Matson is not here today, but they are our program associate. We'll probably be hiring in the fall for our 4th position, but I see my staff and all our staff that have come through because we've had younger staff and we've got to mentor some really great people to new places. Our staff dedicates ourselves every single day to climate justice and our mission, and I couldn't do my job without them, so that they give me hope. And most of all, people of faith like you all here today, like I said, taking the time out of your weekend on the nice day of this weekend to come together, prioritize creation, our environment, and our common ground. We can make a difference. We are making a difference. We'll continue to make a difference. We've got this because there's so much hope out there. There's so many positive stories of people doing the right thing by our planet and changing the way they live so that future generations can access what we have. If this isn't love your neighbor, I don't know what that commandment is. I truly don't. I think I'm right, so it is. You might be wondering, I do have a degree in that, so maybe. You might be wondering, so what are some ways beyond talking about climate change, which is seriously a very important action you can take, what you can do to do something tangible, to embrace and challenge our common ground for Iowans today and for future generations. So for the past 2 years officially, and maybe half a year before that, Iowa IPL has been a proud member of the Clean Up Mid-Am Coalition. We know, because we're gathered here today, we know that fossil fuels are one of the largest contributors to climate change, and Mid-American Energy is our largest carbon polluter in the state. They spend millions of dollars touting their renewable energy investments while operating 6 coal plants in our state. Iowans of faith and conscience are starting to pay attention to what Mid-Am is saying versus what they're doing. The simple truth is that Mid-Am is running one of the largest coal fleets in our country, which is leading to polluted air and water in our state. I believe, that Mid-American Energy has the moral obligation to move beyond coal. In addition to air pollution, which we all know increases risks of asthma and other health impacts, a recent Earth Justice study just found that toxic pollutants from 4 of Mid-Am's coal plants are leaking. They're leaking toxins like arsenic and mercury into our groundwater. That's not good. And end of last year, they tried to put a bunch of coal ash in the Missouri River as well. It's not great, right? They don't tout that when they talk about the work they're doing. So tomorrow, we're gathering for a rally and action at the Rain Garden at St. Paul's Episcopal Cathedral at 3:30 to demand that Mid-American Energy share a true plan for a just, clean transition. They have dates of which they'll share their coal plants, which no one has access to. And that means those coal communities do not have access. They cannot plan. They need to be able to plan and dream of a better tomorrow. And that's what we, as Iowa IPL, are asking them to do. And we all here, you all know one of our rally speakers, Pastor Heather, will be speaking. So we are going to be turning the tables on Mid-Am, asking them to resource these the coal communities. We're asking them to meet with us as a coalition. And it's not public, but we're going to have our rally, and then we're actually going to take a 4-block walk to Mid-Am. And my staff and some friends at the Iowa Environmental Council have been creating an art piece. So I said turning the tables. When Holy Week, right? Jesus turned the tables. So we're actually going to flip a table in front of Midian. We're flipping a table on the coal communities, what they are giving our planet, and we're turning the table, inviting them into a better world. So it's really exciting. It's a direct action. We're trying to surprise Midian, and that's our leverage to help, these communities, also help everyday Iowans who are impacted by what Midian is throwing out. So I really hope that you'll join us. We have a couple flyers on the back table. This is new and different for Iowa IPL. I'm sure none of you, I don't think we've ever done a direct action. I know some of you predate me at Iowa IPL. But the big thing is that Iowans in every single corner of our state are taking their faith and acting on climate, and more can be invited into this work. It's our Christian responsibility through the Bible's central message of loving our neighbor and radical justice to invite all into this work. The most important climate action you can take is to talk about it and invite people in, to help others make that leap of faith and to believe and join us in action. Faith-rooted climate action is so important. I like to call it our superpower. It means something when we talk about how much we care and our why is our faith. That means it's deep, it's rooted in our being. Let's talk about climate more. Iowans are working for clean energy, clean water, clean air, healthy soil, and care of creation. And I'm gonna end on this quote. So one of the most beautiful things I've heard from a Faith Farms and Climate Convo is from Larry in Southwest Iowa. Every time I step out my front door, I'm at church. So let it be so. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that inspiring and helpful sharing and talk. And we have an opportunity now to respond with a litany. And so I invite you to turn to page 694 in the Chalice Hymnals, the red books. And as you're turning there, let me just say that those who created the program sort of offered a joke or turned the tables on me. And I did not share this with them, but I actually do not like litanies. It's one of my least favorite things to do. So I'm going to ask us to, because we often just mouth them and, just kind of mindlessly read them. So I'm going to ask us to read with conviction the many part, which is the bold part. I'll read the one, which is the light type part, and you'll read the bold part. But to give it to some conviction, I ask you to read it in Greek. Now, you can use the New Testament Greek or the Koine Greek and not the classical Greek, but okay, everyone got that? And at the end of each stanza, I also offer you the opportunity to just take out one plastic item you have on you and recycle it as you leave the... So, okay, I'm kidding about all of that. In terms of conviction, though, to be serious for a moment, I ask us when we read the bold type to do it in good choir fashion. In other words, to hold our hymnals up and look up so that our voice projects. And if you would like, if you're able, please stand. So let's share together, please, caring for the earth. We have faith.
In one God, one source of all life, one ground of the whole earth, with all its creatures.
And thus we believe
In
in the goodness of earth's life, in the innate worth of all of its dependents, in human partnership in the life of nature. And thus we believe that in Christ we have been shown the special role of the human race to bear God's likeness in working and caring for the earth, in seeking to understand its mysteries and powers, in gently working with these powers for the well-being of all children of the earth. And thus we believe that God's Spirit will lead us through sensitive closeness with earth's life to that meek, unselfish, and compassionate lifestyle by which the earth is inherited in peace, by which its life is transformed for all creatures to share justly in its bounty. So be it. Amen. Thank you. You did that well. If you would like to remain standing for the song, that would be great, or if you'd rather sit, that's fine too. It's number 189, and in the spirit of what I just shared with you a moment ago, 189, no, it's different. It's in the Chalice Praise, sorry. So it's in the Chalice Praise book, which is the purple book. Verse 1, sing in Spanish, verse 2 in Italian, verse 3 in Lithuanian, and verse 4 in Chinese. Let's sing together, please.
Thank you, Bill and Jerry and Vivian, for leading us in music. Thank you, Doug, for the litany. I appreciate you extending your boundaries here a little bit and growing with us. Thank you for explaining that. Speaking of speaking out for creation, we have a number of things that we want to lift up very quickly. We want to thank Tim from IPL back there who has set up a display, and I want everybody to take a little extra time to look at the display and understand the advocacy that we can have through IPL, and we appreciate that. I might mention that Susan Hendershot actually was a member here at this church, and now she is president of Interfaith Power and Light in Washington, D.C., and does great work and travels around the globe to be a speaker. We are very proud of Susan, and that's wonderful. Now, I did ask IPL. Ren sent me some envelopes. They were not going to have these here, but if you would like to do a part of this support of being a place, doing things that we can't all be there, IPL is doing a wonderful job, and you can grab an envelope and have that. So I actually brought those and put those out there. Irene, thank you so much for the hopeful message. By example, people are doing these things, and we need to lift that up, and that was so valuable. Thank you, Irene. Some other things. Let's go with this. Talking with the mayor of Urbandale, I have an official, and you can see it actually has a gold seal. You can come up and touch it if you want to afterwards. I feel great about this. Anyway, it's been signed and sealed. This is the original copy of a proclamation put out by the Mayor of Urbandale, Bob, 2024 Earth Day proclamation. And whereas this is the 55th Earth Day celebration, will occur tomorrow. They want to be part of it, and they are doing this in recognition, therefore, Mayor of City of Urbandale, on behalf of the City Council and Urbandale Parks and Recreation Department and the entire community, support an Earth Day event tomorrow. It'll be at Dunlap Auditorium, Arboretum, Dunlap Park. It's a well-kept secret. I don't want you to talk about it too much because I like it. It's nice and quiet. Nobody goes there. But they have an Earth Day, 1 o'clock cleanup event there. But it speaks well for the City Council and the Mayor that are part of this time we live in. And so there's that. You can see me for more information about that. Then, as Irene mentioned, downtown, Linda and I will be there at 3:30, and we'll be looking forward to that as being part of this very important time. Heather, thank you for speaking and being part of that, too. Then, okay, we've got a lot going on here. Tuesday night at New Beginnings Church at 6 o'clock, there will be the movie Common Ground, Saving the Planet 1 Acre at a Time. And there's some pretty big names there, and I think this is going to be a good video. 6 o'clock, New Beginnings, over on Hickman here. So looking forward to that. Thank you for putting that on. Let's see, we have a lot of other things going on. But in your bulletin, if you want to increase or decrease your utility bill by 10%, you simply can adjust your thermostat. It's surprising what a few degrees will make in your utility bill. The value of Earth Day is bringing Earth Month to the top of our minds, and so we prepared a flyer and we sent it around to the 21 churches here in Urbandale with this suggestion that they adjust their thermostat a few more degrees. And if they do, if every church did that, we would save 10% of about $550,000 of utility bills right here in the city of Urbandale. Something to think about. And I also mentioned if they couldn't be here today to check out IPL website for cool congregations. One more church would be good. So that's what's going on here. The other side of your insert, and Doug, you were great at planning this idea, plastic. So Earth Day 2024, the theme of the national organization is plastic, reduce it. So reduce it, buy less, use less, and if you see some plastic, pick it up and put it in its place. Now, and there's a reason for that. We may not have a view of the ocean, but we do have oceanfront property. So the idea here is you may not remember the song, Them Bones. Them bones and bones? Knee bones connected to the whatever. Well, okay, take that in your mind and put these words to it. Plastic, plastic is everywhere. Plastic, plastic, it's in the air. Oh, yeah, Fred G. a year ago had a sermon where he commented on, you know those beautiful white clouds in the sky? Well, sometimes there's little white clouds that get caught in the trees and the fence lines. So Reverend Fred G. brought that to life, and plastic is everywhere. Well, that's not fair. Pick it up and show your care. Now, Tom, tell us, how can this get to the ocean? You're going to have to use your imagination here, but the church grounds are connected to the storm drain, right? Storm drain's connected to Walnut Creek, it's right down the road here. Walnut Creek is connected to the Raccoon, very good. Raccoon's connected to the Des Moines. Des Moines' connected to the Mississippi. And the Mississippi is connected to the Gulf of Mexico. Then plastic pollutes the Gulf, then plastic pollutes the ocean. That plastic, it's going to blow around. Plastic, it's going to float around. Plastic, keep it in the ground. Reduce it and show you care. That's the message from the theme of this. Now, we're about ready to wrap it up. Everybody gets a couple of light bulbs to take home. Find a good home for those. And if so, we can finish our project of 708 light bulbs, saving thousands of dollars, a carbon offset program that we have here. Everybody can grab multiple towels. We have terry towels in the back that can save thousands of rolls of paper. So that's what's going on here today. We really appreciate everybody being part of this, and thank you for the participants. Thank you for the music. Next. That'll take care of everything we have. Yes, we do have something. There are some additional door prizes here today. We know that the frequency of extreme weather events is going to increase. That's well documented. What we do want you to be reminded of is be prepared for those weather emergencies. Be prepared to show compassion. If some of you have in your bulletin, under announcements in green ink, if you'll look there, it says, be prepared to show compassion. Be prepared to help one another in times of electric outage. Be prepared. Does anybody have that written in there? You will get, you and you and you will all get a lantern. Well, good. Linda, show of hands. Very good, very good. Now, be thinking about that. How well prepared are you for the next electrical outage? And how are you going to charge your cell phone when you have an electrical outage? How are you going to see how to charge your cell phone? And how are you going to be prepared to help one another? Who are you going to call when there is an electrical outage? So that's what's going on. And please, again, pick up and help spread the light bulbs around and be a light to show compassion. Thank you, Lauren, for passing those around. It is time for a benediction.
Will you rise for the benediction? In the journey of unfolding days, you are the ones created in holy image, bound to holy ground. May you be the gift God has always believed and envisioned you to be. Be filled with courage and good hope, and go in peace. Amen.